started. We are really thrilled to have Don Gable, who is the Director of Plant Health for the New York Botanical Garden, as our keynote speaker. And it was very nice asking him, and the fact that he was excited to say yes. So Don, I think you can put up your program, or if you would like, Gemma can post it. And
well, I tried to put it up. If I don't know what you're seeing.
no, we're seeing you.
Okay, then maybe Gemma, you might have to. I tried to bring it up. I've been having a little bit of trouble this morning.
So Gemma, is that okay? Can you do that? Or yeah, I think Gemma's got them all.
Yes, I'm unloading. I'm doing it right now.
Sorry.
Great, thank you. I tried to link to survey and it says not found. Oh, did anyone else have that? Oh, and thank you, Jennifer. He needs to be a host to share the screen. So that's something else we might need to do is put people on as co-hosts.
Well, I can, as we're digging away at that, I can say thank you, Betsy, and everybody else for actually inviting me. And good morning to all of you out there. It's sort of quite an honor for me to open up this exciting 2-day vegetable conference. It was kind of different for me to be in the beginning of the speaking and not towards the end. Lots of great information in the next couple of days. Something for new gardeners, something for old gardeners. So hopefully this morning I will get to talk to you about seeing the gardening, gardening, especially vegetable gardening, the way that I do, through the plant health IPM sort of lens, if you will. So such a wide lens that we can apply in all of our gardening, whether it's vegetables or not. You'll see how or where to incorporate the things that you're going to learn over the next couple of days into great, in this case, vegetable gardening. So let's see if we can't get that first thing up.
And also, for some reason, that link to the survey, pretest survey, wasn't the right one. So I put in one, it ends in DK. That one does seem to work for me. And, oh, so you are now, you want to, maybe Don, try again, because now you're the co-host. See if it will let you put your
all right.
under share.
You're not seeing it still, right? Okay.
Nope.
I've got hit my screen share. I'm sorry, but it's not happening.
Okay. So that's what we like to have, all these issues at the beginning. Oh, it's starting now.
There we go.
Not quite at the beginning, but we'll get you to the beginning and then you can just ask Gemma to advance the slide.
Oh boy. Okay. I could do that. Couple more.
There you go.
There we go.
I think everyone's seeing that.
Is that everybody's there finally? I apologize for the difficulties. You would think I hadn't attended yesterday's warm-up session. So,
thanks, Don.
So we did a little bit of warm-up there. There's our beautiful bounty of good vegetables. But so before we create this lens, so to speak, sort of as Chris was talking about a few months ago when I was asked to be the speaker for today, there was a lot of talk of recent overwhelming attraction to gardening and especially vegetable gardening. So that was sort of the scuttlebutt, and the obvious answer was sort of COVID. Yeah, that's the answer for everything these days. But there was more to it. There was people who were doing lots of stuff outdoors, hiking, camping, skiing, all that kind of stuff, interacting more than we ever saw before. I take care of a group camp in a park, and we were inundated with people from all over the place in the area asking questions. But a lot of people got out to do vegetable gardening at home, more than maybe we ever saw before. So we decided to say, what was this allure? Go ahead and advance. So what's the allure? And there we can sort of see just bits and pieces of it right there. We've got all these things more than just really going outside. We know this attraction. It's gardening. We all do gardening. We know the attraction. But again, what brought us to gardening? All the other people that were out doing things. Why'd they decide to go and do vegetable gardening? We'll go ahead and advance and we'll take a look at what's that allure. There's a lot of it. Gardening could be done with family and friends, as we saw and we heard earlier with Chris. It's a lifelong activity, just like skiing. I've been doing it since I was young, both of them. gardening combines that exercise, being outdoors, all that sort of sensory stimulation, hopefully at some point even tasting your wares that you can produce. And then overall, that calming, relaxing effect. You've done something, you've accomplished something. Maybe you're tired because you accomplished something. So the rewarding effect of the aesthetics of growing flowers or whatever it is, or the bountiful harvest, is just great. That's what that allure is. And of course, yeah, it's the cure for COVID craziness that we hope maybe will come to an end all too soon. Go ahead. So whether we've got azalea gardens, rose gardens, maybe a perennial or a more formal garden, vegetable gardens, of course, the theme of the day. Go ahead. We might have lawns, big trees. Go ahead. Flowering trees. There's our magnolia collection, sort of in a full bloom, creating sort of a haze, if you will, underneath. Okay. Then we have our vegetable garden, brand new. They just rebuilt the whole thing. They've got their own little greenhouse. What an operation to watch, interacting with the community when we can. Not so much last year, but we'll get to a slide on that momentarily. Okay. So growing these healthy plants requires really a good plant health program. The foundation for any plant healthcare program is emphasizing proactive, sound horticultural practices to promote optimal growing environments and plant health. That's a lot to chew on, but it's really what we do. It's gardening. That's what we're out there doing. That plant health care is our gardening. Okay. So how do we get it done? We've got dedicated gardeners. That's you and me and everybody else who work year round to provide the best cultural growing conditions possible. And that's year round because in the winter, you're selecting seeds and making sure the compost delivery is going to be on time and all the things that you need to do to plant to have a great garden, attending courses like this. The actual work comes later, but without that planning, boy. So it's a year round kind of project. When the plant health is impacted by a pathogen, an insect, or a cultural condition, then we might use IPM or integrated pest management to address the problem. Okay? So let's take a look at this IPM. The New York State DEC has a great definition, a systematic approach to managing pests, which focus on long-term prevention or suppression with minimal impact on human health, the environment, and non-targets. So the idea there is prevention ahead of time and suppression. Maybe we're not going to get rid of everybody. Minimal impact, of course, on the healthy environment and the non-targets, the pollinators that we need so much, and the beneficial insects, that might be helping us out. So IPM incorporates all these reasonable measures to prevent pest problems by identifying the pests, monitoring the population dynamics, using the tools in our toolbox of cultural, physical, biological, or yes, even chemical controls to reduce pests to acceptable levels. Back to that idea that we're going to accept certain levels of pests and we'll be happy about it. Okay. So if we were to sort of put it in a little visual here, the bottom line is good culture. It's where we start. That's our gardening. That's what we're going out every day and do. And then we're preventing issues. And as we move down, we might need to intervene. And then we have other options, obviously, mechanical, biological, and then eventually chemical. By the time you get there, you realize that, yes, indeed, I might need this chemical application, but you've gone through everything else. Okay. So soils, plant selection, garden layout are the base of this IPM plant health care approach. That's what you'll be learning over the next few days. Okay. So let's dig a little bit deeper into the whole idea here. So IPM is a thought process. We're going to solve a pest problem. The process of IPM guides you to look at the plant condition, good or bad, in order to make a good diagnosis. And again, the idea there, I want to emphasize, we can look at plants that are in great condition and want to know how we might increase the yield, how we can do better. by assessing the plant condition, looking at the soils, the water, everything. We can use our findings to improve the plant condition and therefore our yield. Keeping the principles and components of an IPM plant health program in mind as a part of your overall garden experience, you'll help be more proactive and less reactive in what you do in the garden. Okay. So comes some of these principles we're referring to. I think we figured out by now, we're not going to probably eradicate all our problems. Okay. We may do things that produce unexpected results, over fertilizing. Maybe you mulched heavily and caused some rot or whatever it is. Think about what you might do and what are the other implications. And then also, we have to have an integrated approach. There's always one way to solve the problem. Pesticides might be the Band-Aid, but you got to figure out what the problem is and integrate your approach at solving it. Go ahead. So again, intervene only when reaching thresholds, which might imply that you need to have those thresholds in place. Go ahead. Maximize your natural controls. You got these guys out there hopefully working for you. Let's not interfere with them. Okay. Treat only where there's a pest problem. So if you do make an application, maybe pesticides, spot treatment will significantly reduce the pesticide use. Use it only where you need to, not judiciously. Okay? Whoops. Everything good? Okay. So let's take a look down a little bit at the tolerance and threshold, right? I talked about it, but maybe we'll quickly define it because all this will help sharpen your skills. Monitoring by itself has a limited value unless we can apply it to a threshold. A threshold is a value above which something happens and below which it does not. Thresholds should be used to establish when a control method would be triggered. Again, control method. That's any of those tools that we mentioned in the toolbox. Pest damage potential and customer tolerance, you might be the customer, are combined to form thresholds. How much can I tolerate of these things that are going on in my garden? Early detection and use of applied thresholds and tolerances will allow a wider range of control tactics. Let's get in there and early and solve that problem from a couple of different tactics. Okay. So this IPM is more than spraying. So often it's connected with spraying, but really not so much. You might arrive there, but you've arrived there through a decision process. So we're plant managers. That's the way I like to look at it. We're gardeners. We observe, we manipulate the pests, the plants, the growing environment to obtain that desired level of plant health and yield. That's what gardeners do. That's what we're all about. Okay. So components of an IPM program to help, again, focus a little more. We have our general knowledge of our plants, their culture, how they want to grow, pests maybe that are associated with them, your site and environment, your current. Oops. There might be someone that's not mute.
Can you mute yourself? Sorry, Don.
Okay. We then have the decision, monitoring system. That's important. We'll talk about that briefly. Decision-making process, where you begin to pull it all together. You have your control options, your thresholds you use, your multiple control tactics come into play. And of course, you're going to do this with your monitoring results that will drive that decision-making process. Then, of course, if we don't go out and look to see how well we've done, it's sort of meaningless. Got to have that evaluation. Get a body count, or is that mycelium no longer a problem, or whatever else it is. So that's part of the main components. Okay. So if we take a look at each one of them quickly, the poor plant culture, the way we want to grow plants, can be responsible for a large amount of our pest problems, either from pathogens, insects, or just the cultural problem itself. If we can learn to recognize these conditions as we are monitoring, we can help develop a better long-term solution so that we might not want to grow things in really bad conditions, but get those ultimate conditions. And you do this by observing, seeing what's going on out there. Okay. The next component was monitoring. boy, this is a big one, the routine inspection of plants. We're going to look at or identify key plants, key pests, and key locations. A key plant might be that guy that's always a problem. You plant it and they will come. So we have to pay attention to that guy maybe a little more. Or there's a pest that might be sort of ornery that has multiple generations or reproduces fast, like spider mites, and that can get in the way. Or maybe it causes catastrophic damage, like a squash vine borer. There's no good end to that one. So we want to identify them and focus on them a little bit in our monitoring. Record our cultural observations, good and bad, and the good and bad bugs. We want to know if the good guys are there helping us out. So when we select tactics for control methods, that we don't interfere with them. And again, this is where we might begin to set our thresholds of acceptable levels of the pests and the adverse sort of cultural conditions we might be encountering. Okay. So we have a monitoring. We can sort of look at, again, the most dynamic component of the IPM program because it's changing. It's what you're seeing today and all that. Last week, maybe built in. Monitoring pest levels in the current pest biology provides timely, accurate information to make effective control decisions. And again, not necessarily pesticides. There's lots of things that we can do, and they need to be timed well to get to be the most effective. IPM tactics depend on a good monitoring and diagnostic program. So you need to dig in, you need to look. Okay. We can break down 4 components here, all based on your visual observation. First, detection. Find the presence of a plant problem. There's lots of things going out there. Not everything is a problem. And then see if we can identify that causal agent. Is it an insect? Is it a pathogen? Is it because I left the hose running for a day and a half? Maybe. Pest evaluation, quantitative estimate of the pest population. How many we have out there? And take a look at that pest potential to cause harm. An aphid might be far different than a squash vine borer, their potential to cause harm, compared with those established thresholds that you began to flesh out. Then we take a look at the plant itself, assessment of the plant vitality. Where is it now? Its productivity and the damage that may have occurred. And then treatment evaluation. Again, got to go back, take a look to see if it's working, to know if your multiple control tactics are beginning to pay off. Okay. So out of monitoring, now we're into that other thing where we begin to tie it all together, that decision-making, developing your strategy to control or enhance whatever you were finding. So establish that acceptable damage threshold, again, considering the pest, its life stage, where it is now, and the damage potential and the aesthetics of the values or the production that needs of your client, whoever that client might be. Sometimes if it involves pesticides or in some areas in the state, even fertilizers may be regulated. So we need to understand that. Certainly pesticides, there would be regulations, even as a homeowner. Follow that label, pay attention. There's a great wealth of information all over the DEC websites, and the IPM websites would be glad to steer you in proper use of these products. Consider alternative methods, though. That's where we want to focus. Those horticultural practices, the baseline of that triangle, modification of the environment, resistant plants, biocontrols. And yes, we can use pesticides, but realize that, again, that's reactive. But it may be justified to set things right and then do your other controls to make that long-term suppression work. So we also have to know the timing. It's very important. When I do a lot of consulting here or outside of the garden, that's one of the biggest things. We can find things, we can see them, but is it the right time to deal with it? Have we missed it, or is it just coming soon? So again, back to integrated management tactics to provide that long-term suppression. Okay. So at our vegetable garden, there's a lot going on in the community plots that we have there. This farm to table restaurant has become very popular down here, rooftop gardening, everything. So we can take some of these techniques I've listed here, and they're good for small scale agriculture. Crop selection, it's huge. I think you'll learn a bit about that in the next couple of days. Some are just easier to grow. or resistant, excuse me, to your chronic problems. Crop rotation, if we don't keep growing the same thing in the same place all the time, that might be a good idea to not allow things to build up in the soil, diseases and the like. Crop planting time. So maybe we can avoid certain pests by planting at one time or another. Maybe this delaying planting so we can get around somebody. Crop monitoring, again, you've got to look at it all the time. That's what you do. That's what you love to do. Go outside and look, poke around. Watch out for overhead watering if it's happening, maybe from unintentionally from lawn sprinklers. Ooh, those are terrible things, aren't they? Row covers, fencing, raised beds to get it away from some herbivores, the four-footed type. So we might have to do things like that. We can also deny, the host denial, I call it, where we harvest that crop before the problem can really take a crop lost. So maybe we don't have a full head of a lettuce or whatever else it is, but we can harvest it, we can use it and not make a treatment because there's no more problem. I took the crop. Hand picking, obviously, may or may not work for you. If a larger scale, it's not going to work. But if you got a lot of hungry hands with all those kids helping you, turn them loose. Companion planting, so non-vegetable plants for attracting beneficials, repelling pests possibly, banker plants to maybe help stage areas for beneficials, indicator plants. All these things could be used in association with your vegetable. We have biologicals. We can use a bacillus or neem products, entomopathogenic fungi that we can apply and work well in humid conditions. Beneficial nematodes. These are all ways to go after a number of pests that you will find in the garden. And we haven't had to pull out the harsh chemicals yet. Of course, we have soaps and oils that should be used carefully. They would be pesticides, and we have to be careful of that. Next. So again, these physical mechanical controls are great. So we could wash mites off with a heavy stream of water repeatedly. Sometimes you might need a miticide, but if you can knock that population down, not let it get out of hand, boy, that's a great one. Wire cages we mentioned before to exclude pests. We don't have to keep using repellents if we could just keep them away. Hand removal of pests where it's appropriate, something big that you can remove. Adjust the planting or harvesting times, as we talked about before, could be a great tactic. And removal of the host. Maybe it's just too far gone and we shouldn't waste our time and don't allow it to fester and attract pathogens or other insects. Just get rid of it. And I mean rid of it, not just over in the heap on the side. Get it in a bin that's closed or to the mulch heap and maybe bury it a little bit. Okay. Cultural controls, that's what we do, right? Every day, remove that dead debris and don't let it build up. So maybe we have pathogens that have nothing to really get started on. I think a southern blight down here is now a problem because of temperature changes. And boy, that just loves a good dead leaf to get going on and just reaches up and grabs the stem of our plants. Boy, so soils, pH and fertility management, that's the fun stuff. And the pH really focus on that to regulate your fertility outside. Resistant plants, improved cultivars. Again, that fun stuff you're going to learn about. Companion planting, maybe as simple as marigolds for repelling certain insects. Is it going to solve your problems? Probably not. But as a multiple control tactic, these things begin to come together and give you maybe the level of control that you're looking for, your threshold. And of course, site selection, maybe the biggest. Got to have the right conditions or you struggle all along and not much you can do to change the amount of sunlight. Okay, go ahead.
Don, we have about 5 minutes left for that, and then maybe we can take some questions.
Okay,
5 minutes.
I'm
Yeah, go
wrapping up,
ahead.
almost done. So biological control agents, we saw them again, just to, I think you might be talking about them. We have a bunch of different predators, parasites, pathogens. Really best, I think, to sync up a specific host predator or parasite. General predators, boy, you can just spend a lot of money dumping buckets on. They're slow to act and you should have appropriate expectations with biocontrols, okay? Recognition of preservation might be the best way to get started. Who's out there? Who do you have already? and make sure that whatever you do is not going to disturb them or disrupt them. Okay? Just a few characters at work. Maybe you'll get to know some of these more closely, but they're all out there. Just go take a look. Okay? So, good plant health is the foundation for good vegetable gardening. Incorporating these IPM and plant health ideas into the planning in your everyday garden is going to be key to beginning that proactive, successful management of your garden. Okay? Just a little bit of showing off. This is our Edible Academy. We didn't have much community outreach, obviously, at all. No kids in, but they had a lot of plants to grow, and they became farmers, and nearly 7,000 pounds. That was great. Given to the community banks, an awesome deal. Okay? So, final thought, plants need 4 things to grow. If any of these are restricted for any reason, then the plant growth and function are limited. If we keep that in the background, you'll solve your problems. It's going to be a restriction on one of those 4 things by somehow or some way. So with that, I'm done. I hope be able to join you in and out maybe during the course of the 2 days. And I think that it's going to be a great kind of conference, and a lot will be accomplished. So with that, if there's any questions.
Thanks, Don. That was great, and a great introduction to what's going to happen throughout the rest of the conference. So if people have questions, they can type them in the chat. I have a question to get you started. So
Sure.
you're the director of plant health. Do you have a whole IPM team for your gardens?
Yeah, I'm the IPM team. I run, it's a one-man show. My boss helps me with the administrative thing because you can imagine there's an awful lot of that. And we do have to run a pesticide program, and it's a lot to that. So I spend my time doing that and the diagnosis, teaching, and getting out there all the time. So, and I'm all over for whatever they grow. So from crops in the greenhouse to collections, conservatory, the lawn, unfortunately, large trees, it all bouncing around, sort of helping out with all those kinds of things. And actually the vegetable garden is run by the education department, and they do a great job. Of course, I help them and advise them, and we deal with their greenhouse. I love their greenhouse. I'm very jealous of their greenhouse. But anyway, so yeah, it's really a combination of people getting the whole program together down here.
Great, thank you. See if I don't see any questions in the chat. The other thing is, I know there's a lot of people that have signed on since we started, and there's a link to the pretest in the, I'm going to keep harping on this. There's a link to the pretest in the chat, so please do our pretest. I can tell you that out of the 78 people on, we've only gotten 30 answers. So I know that some of you have not done it yet. So I can't tell who's done it, but I can spy on how many. So please do that while we have a small break here. Oh, and we do have a question. Is the garden open for visitors?
Oh, yes, right. We're presently, I think, at a quarter or a third, allowing 3,500 people a day. You have to buy a time ticket. You have to fill out a form that says that, you know, you'll follow our rules, which is to wear a mask the entire time, social distance. But yeah, we have the conservatory open, and the grounds are absolutely full bore gorgeous at the moment. And we're looking to probably soon be able to open even a little bit more. We have our sort of blockbuster show called Kusama going on. Selfless plug here, but go on and take a look. There's some pretty crazy art on display on the grounds. They wrap some gorgeous big trees in polka dots. It's kind of hard for a tree person to see that every day. I'll have to endure it for 4 months, but people tell me that's art, so I'll just leave it at that. I can also say a little bit more to your other question. An IPM crew is, I work with all the crews. I'm an in-house service, so to speak. And so everything is IPM. That's the way they're taught. Just as I taught you today, this is the way they sort of function and see things. And I will move around and ask questions and talk to them, and they can engage me through their manager or directly, because I will go visit the gardens and see how their monitoring is doing, and see what they've been finding, just to keep tabs. I don't always want to have to go and see bad things, but that seems to be what it's like. You never get called to see the really beautiful things. Anyway, if there's any other questions, otherwise, maybe it's time for the next.